we go. Today's an important day. We're learning something we definitely need to be able to do in pre-calc, and that is find the trig function value for any angle. So far, what type of angles have we been finding trig function values for?
90 degree angles.
Special angles, or what did we do yesterday? Quadrantal. Okay, so far we've been finding trig functions for special angles and quadrantals. Today we want to be able to do it for any size angle. Okay, so that's what we're looking at doing today. And there are two things we need to be able to find the trig function for any angle. And those two things are reference angle and quadrant. Those are the two things I need to know about any angle to find a trig function for it, a trig function value. What are we going to use a reference angle for? What did we figure out yesterday about our reference angle? It gives me the same what? Not the same sign. A reference angle and the actual angle, what's in common between the two? It gives me the same value, gives me the same number. So a reference angle is what's going to tell me the number, and what's the quadrant going to tell me? What'd you say? Not side length. If I've got the number, what's the only other thing I need? Whether or not it's positive or negative. So the quadrant's going to tell me the sign, the reference angle tells me the number. So that's what we're doing today. So let's get started. Cosine of 4 pi over 3. Now here's a hint on this. If I'm asking you to find the trig function of any angle and I'm asking you to do it without a calculator, it is going to be, your reference angle is going to be a certain type of angle. What certain type of angle do you think it's going to be? Not right.
Acute.
It's going to be acute positive, but be more specific. Which ones do you have memorized?
30.
It's going to be a special angle. Okay, so if I'm asking you to evaluate a trig function and I'm asking you to do it without a calculator, your reference angle is going to end up being a special angle. Okay, that will help you. Okay, that makes finding a special angle or finding your reference angle easier because you know it's got to be one of three numbers. All right, so cosine of 4 pi over 3. What do I want to do first? Change it to degrees. So if I change that to degrees, it gives me 240. Now, real quick, as a little side note, I want to show you how I got to 240 real quick. We need to know, and I don't remember if we talked about this yesterday or not. Do we know what pi over 6 is equal to in degrees?
No.
Have we talked about that yet? If you convert it, pi over 6 is equal to 30 degrees, pi over 3 is equal to 60 degrees, and pi over 4 is equal to 45 degrees. Those are three things we need to know. So pi over 6 is 30, pi over 3 is 60, and pi over 4 is 45. So here's how I figured it out in my head. I saw the pi over 3. I knew that pi over 3 was equal to 60, so I did 60 times 4, and that gave me the 240.
Wow.
So whenever you see pi over 6, pi over 3, or pi over 4, you know what the degree measure is, and then you multiply it by the coefficient. All right, so what's my reference angle going to be?
Maybe 30 degrees.
Not 30.
80.
What? We just talked about what's my only three options for a reference angle?
It's 0.
No, what did we just say? 30, 60, or 45. So if you're telling me a reference angle right now, you better be giving me one of those three numbers. And since it ends in a 0, it's got to be one of two. What two can it be? 30 or 60. So what's the closest?
60.
It's got to be 60. Because what's it closer to? 180 or 360? It's closer to 180. How far away is it from 180? 60. Now, here's another way we found it. What did we say pi over 3 was? We said it was 60. Whatever this is going to be your reference angle. So that's even less thinking.
That's nifty.
All right, then what's the other thing I need? I need the quadrant. So what quadrant is 240 in? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. So now I'm ready to go. Okay. At this point, we need to pull out one of your special angles sheets. Pull them out.
Oh, geez, I got Oh, okay.
Gage, you got yours?
Yeah.
You want to get it out for me?
Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah. They talk about that.
Okay, whenever we're doing these types of problems, and I recommend you do it on a fresh sheet, that way you know you have it memorized, is go through, give me sine, cosine, and tangent of 30, give me sine, cosine, and tangent of 60, and then give me sine, cosine, and tangent of 45. And again, so we go 1/2 there, radical 3 over 2, which means this one's got to be radical 3 over 2, 1/2. And we know these two are 1 over radical 2, 1 over radical 2. This one's a 1, this is a radical 3, and a 1 over radical 3. So fill that out real quick. So now we're ready to answer our problem. So reference angle, I'm dealing with cosine of 60. So I go to my special angles. Cosine of 60 is 1/2. So that means my number is 1/2. Then what else do I need to consider? The quadrant. I'm dealing in quadrant 3. What is my sine ordered pair of quadrant 3? You understand what I'm saying on the sine, S-I-G-N? What is my sine ordered pair in quadrant 3? It's a negative, negative. Okay, we're dealing with cosine. Which one of these deals with cosine? The x or the y? X does. Remember, x deals with cosine. So that tells me that this is negative. So you find your reference angle to get your number. You have the quadrant to get your sine. You put the two together, and that gives me cosine of 4 pi over 3 is negative 1/2. That's what it's all about. So I know. So I want to find sine of 3 pi over 4. So right off the bat, I know my reference angle is what?
45.
45. And then I want to do 45 times 3 to get my quadrant. So 45 times 3 is 135, which means I'm dealing in quadrant 2. So then what is my sine ordered pair in quadrant 2? S-I-G-N. What is my sine ordered pair in quadrant 2? Negative, positive. Okay, so does sine go with the x value or the y value? Sine goes with the y value, so that means my answer is going to be positive, and then I need sine of 45, so I go to my special angles. Sine of 45 is 1 over radical 2. There's my answer. Cosecant of 390. Cosecant of 390. So what do you want to do this one?
We'll change it to radians.
I don't need to change it to radians. I can get everything I want from degrees. Okay, what do I want to do before I get a reference angle? Probably subtract 360. So I subtract 360. I end up with 30. So what does 30 happen to be? It happens to be two things. It happens to be the reference angle, and it is also how did I get 30 from 390?
Subtract 360.
It's the reference angle, but it's also what else? What'd you say? You're close. Just didn't say the right word, but you're on the right track. Kendrick, what is it? You don't know. What is it, Gage? 30 is the reference angle to 390, but it's also what to 390? Reagan?
It's one of the special angles.
It is a special angle, but that's not what I'm looking for. I want to know if it relates to 390 in two ways. It is the reference angle, but it is also another type of angle that relates to 390.
It wouldn't be the pi over 6.
So that's not what I'm looking for.
Co-terminal one?
There we go. Thank you. It is the coterminal. So 30 degrees in this case happens to be two different things. It happens to be the reference angle, and it happens to be coterminal. That will not always happen. Sometimes it does. Okay. So I know this is my reference angle. Okay. What about my quadrant?
1.
It's in quadrant 1. So I know it's in quadrant 1. So now I'm ready for cosecant of 30. Now notice I don't have cosecant on the board over here, but you do have it on your special angles list. But what is cosecant related to? Sine. So I would go to sine of 30, which is 1/2, and that means cosecant is 2. And in quadrant 1, everything is positive, so my answer would be a positive 2. Now again, let me give you something that might help you with figuring out what your signs are in each quadrant, what's positive and what's negative. Alright, so let's go through and give our sign ordered pairs in each quadrant. What's my sign ordered pair in quadrant 1? Positive, positive. In quadrant 2?
Negative, positive.
Negative, positive. 3?
Negative, negative.
Negative, negative. And 4?
Positive, negative.
Positive, negative. Okay? Now, something that was passed down to me, it was not, I did not come up with it, so it's kind of dorky. But you might find it handy. It's a little acronym that stands for All Students Take Calculus. That's the way you remember it. But what do you think A stands for?
All.
All are positive. A stands for all are positive. What do you think S stands for? What's positive over here?
Second.
Second. So you're the second.
Second positive.
What am I trying to figure out is positive or negative?
Sine.
Trig functions. So what is S going to stand for?
Sine.
Sine. So that tells me sine is positive.
Oh, man.
What is T going to tell me?
Yeah.
Tangent is
Oh
positive.
my gosh.
And then
And C stands for
cosine.
cosine is positive. So it tells you what's positive. Now, what goes with sine?
Why?
Cosecant does. What goes with tangent? Cotangent does. What goes with cosine? Secant. Now, in these three, in quadrant 2, 3, and 4, the two that are listed are the only two that are positive. Everything else is negative. So in quadrant 2, sine and cosecant are positive. Everything else is negative. In quadrant 3, tangent and cotangent are positive. Everything else is negative. Here in 4, cosine and secant are positive. Everything else is negative. And then in quadrant 1, it says everything's positive. All are positive. So that's something that may be helpful to you. But you know, I don't like those things, but I'm gonna give it to you just in case.
Right.
Gage?
I just wasn't too important, but I just realized that if you spell it clockwise, it spells ax.
Ax. Good. Whatever floats your boat.
All calculus take students.
Let's try another one. Tangent of 11 pi over 6. Tangent of 11 pi over 6. So automatically we see our reference angle is 30. And what do I want to do with 30? Multiply by 11, which gives me 330, and we find out what? It's in quadrant 4. What's my letter for quadrant 4? Cosine. So cosine is positive. So I'm dealing with tangent. What does that mean tangent's going to be? Tangent is going to be negative. I'm dealing with 30, so I go to tangent of 30. Tangent of 30 is 1 over radical 3. There's my answer. That's all I've got to do. Let's try another one. Secant of negative 120.
Throw that negative in there.
What?
I said you just had to throw that negative in there.
That's easy. So what do you want to do with this? Add 360. So if I add 360, I end up with 240. What's my reference angle going to be? 60. And my quadrant? 3. What do I look at to get my quadrant?
The original.
I look at the original, or I look at the coterminal. Those two will tell me the quadrant. Both of those put me in quadrant 3. What's my letter for quadrant 3? T is my letter, which means tangent's positive. So what does that tell me about secant? Secant has to be negative. So then I come over here, I need secant of 60. I don't have secant on my board. What's related to secant? Cosine. So I go to cosine of 60, which is 1/2. So that means secant is 2. My answer would be negative 2. Alright, cosine 11 pi over 3. So what's my reference angle?
60.
Alright, what do I want to do with 60 after that? Multiply by 11, which gives me 660. Subtract 360, which gives me 300, and we can now see that we're in quadrant 4. What's my letter for quadrant 4? Cosine. So cosine's positive. I'm dealing with cosine, so that means my answer needs to be positive. My reference angle is 60, so I go to cosine of 60, and my number is 1/2. There's my answer. Okay, I want you to do the next one on your own. Cotangent of negative 5 pi over 6. What'd you get, Bobby? What'd you get?
Oh.
No. Anybody else pretty confident at it? What do you got, Rachel? Positive square root of 3. So walk me through that, Rachel.
I saw pi over 6, so the reference angle is 30. Then multiply by negative 5, that's negative 150. Add 360, so you have 210. 210 is in quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is tangent, cotangent, so it's positive. And then the tangent of 30 is 1 over 33, just reverse it.
Very good. That's exactly what you need. That's the thought process you guys need to be going through. Let's try another one on your own. Sine of 14 pi over 3. Try that one on your own. And then raise your hand if you're confident about your answer and you can explain the thought process. Guys, you got it?
No, not yet.
No?
Still working on it.
AJ, you got it?
Yeah.
Lauren?
Positive square root of 3 over 2.
Positive square root of 3 over 2 is correct. Walk me through it.
Oh god. Okay, so I knew what the RA was because of pi over 3, so it's 60 degrees.
So reference angle is 60.
And I got 840 because I subtracted 360.
Okay.
No, yeah.
No, you did 60 times 14, which gave me
Oh,
840.
yeah. And then I subtracted 360 twice.
And that gave you
120.
120.
And that put me in the second quadrant. So I knew that it was sine, which was positive.
Okay.
And then sine of 60 is square root of 3 over 2.
Very nice. Outstanding. Alright, any questions on what we're doing to find the trig function of any angle? Sky, I need 2 things. What 2 things do I need? Yes, what's the question?
Okay, so I just have a lost one. When you find the quadrant, I know I find the quadrant, but then what do you do after that?
How do you determine whether or not it's negative?
You're in that little thing we wrote down. So, I'm in quadrant 2.
Okay.
S is in quadrant 2. S stands for sine, which means sine is, if it has the letter, that means it's positive.
Okay.
If it's not one of the letters, that means it's negative.
Alright.
So S stands for sine. I'm dealing with sine, so that means sine is positive. What else goes with sine that's also positive? Cosecant. What goes with tangent? Cotangent. What goes with cosine? Secant. Okay. So in these 3, there's 2 things that are positive, and there's 4 things that are negative, and then in quadrant 1, everything is positive. So what does the reference angle help me find?
Yes.
No.
What do I use the reference angle to find?
The quadrant.
when you,
The number.
if it
The
was
number, the reference angle helps me find the number. What does the quadrant help me find? Positive or negative. That's how you find it. Find your reference angle, find your quadrant, give me the answer. Alright. Assignment number 7 on the board over there. Page 251, 26 to 32 even, and 44 to 58 even.